Joining us now, someone who is very familiar with the process of suing Donald Trump, how he runs his businesses. Adam Leitman Bailey is a New York real estate attorney who has sued former president 7 times, including a case where he won a settlement for 30 people who said they were misled when they bought apartments in Trump's Soho building. So I think what's key here for folks to understand is what is the pattern, right? To the cases you dealt with and the cases we're seeing here. I mean, for instance, the figure that jumped out to me, overvaluing his Mar-a-Lago estate by 10 times, which he then used to gain loans from public companies that are owned by shareholders, right? I mean, he deceived them to do so. What is the pattern of how he runs his business in this way? And what's wrong with that, legally, financially?
So first of all, there's no, the similarity between the case that I won, getting everything my clients wanted, and this case is that Trump lies. You know, everyone in the universe now knows. They didn't know in 2011 when they started the Trump Soho case, but they know now that Trump doesn't tell the truth. But is it fraud in this 225-page complaint where there's hundreds of allegations of fraud? Is it fraud under New York law? And that's where there may be some problems in the lawsuit. I'll give you the first problem. To commit fraud in New York, you have to bring it within 6 years. And if you go back 6 years, the day he became president, he wasn't in charge of his own affairs. So Leticia James has a real big problem proving fraud against the former president, number one. Number two, the banks, I represent banks. Banks do not care what Donald Trump thinks his properties are worth. What happens is the banks hire their own appraisers, their own professionals, and they ask for documents from Donald Trump. And the main thing they ask for, the number one document they want, are tax returns. And they're looking at those tax returns from the accountants, and they're saying, what kind of money are the buildings making? And when you read the complaint, you're going to see Mazurs, the accountants, saying, we no longer agree with what we wrote. Okay, so they should go after the accountants. Then the second thing they look at is the appraisers. Now, Donald Trump doesn't get to pick his own appraisers in these cases. Who picks them? The banks. Cushman and Wakefield in this case, a very reputable appraiser. And the bank relies on their appraiser. So what probably happened was the banks picked their appraiser, Donald Trump doesn't agree with the evaluation, and he picks his own, and then they go back and forth. Now, is there a fraud? Yes, go ahead.
Can I jump in on that point on appraisals? Because I want people to listen to what the former president said last night about it. Here he was.
You can't just say, you know, here's a financial statement. But what we do is, here's a financial statement, but be careful because it may not be accurate. It may be way off. I mean, we go, I think it's close to a page and a half of all of these things. Get your own people. Use your own appraisers. Use your own lawyers. Don't rely on us.
Does that shield him?
So he uses, right. So what he's doing is the banks use their own people, and they say to Trump, you want to take more money, you want us to lend you more money, use your own people. And he did that. But he didn't do it himself. He didn't say, I'm Donald Trump, I'm going to go appraise it myself. He hired experts. And those experts he's relying on, are they going to risk their license and come out and say, I lied, I committed fraud, and I made up numbers?
Yeah. Adam, I have to ask you, though.
That's how hard this lawsuit is for it.
Does that mean we all could lie?
Yeah.
Just anytime you apply for a loan, just make up, my house is worth $1 billion, and therefore please lend me more money? I mean, is it what? I asked Paul Callan this question, who's a lawyer, last hour, and he said that there is something wrong with submitting deceptive documents. Are you saying there isn't, or isn't for someone who has a good enough lawyer?
No, it's not that easy. Donald Trump has to find someone to lie for him, a reputable appraisal company and a reputable accountant to do that. I'm not able to do that. You're not able to do that. I can't find an accountant to lie for me. I can't find an appraiser to lie for me. I'm not able to do that. Maybe Donald Trump is so persuasive. Now, there's one caveat to this. When The Apprentice was going on, Donald Trump was one of the most famous men in America. And what he had was a brand perception, as is referred to in his lawsuit. And how much is a brand perception worth? And Donald Trump's view was, because of my brand perception, because I'm so famous, my properties are worth more. So that's going to be a hard case to prove fraud when he says, it's an opinion. I have an opinion that my properties are worth more because I'm so famous. And that makes this a very difficult case for the Attorney General to win. Not that she won't win, it just makes this a difficult case.
Understood. Adam Leitman Bailey, thanks for helping us understand, wrap our heads around all this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.